Hello, welcome to Music Appreciation 101 with Ryan Acidheads Murphy. My name is Ryan Murphy. I go by the producer name Acidheads, and I am a lover of music. Now, this episode of Music Appreciation is all about classical music, which is not particular. It's not and completely accurate. Classical is a period of music, but it has come to also mean the entire, basically, post, or pre-modern, I should say. Post would be after modern. Pre-modern music, when music was mainly the domain of composers. There's also folk music, of course, but I'm talking about classical. Now, I think a lot of people, it isn't that you don't necessarily dislike classical music. What you really dislike about it is the pompous attitude that a lot of people have towards it. The haughty attitude, perhaps. Snobbish, in other words. Which is a shame, because classical music is wonderful music. It's music of pure expression. There aren't any words to most classical music. There's opera, of course, and choral music, but those are often, if you're an English speaker, they're often in German or Italian. Or, I think there might be other languages. I'm not a big fan of opera, personally, actually. But, the thing about classical is that it's like storytelling. Not really reading a book, but actually having somebody tell you a story. It's intended to take you someplace. Listening to classical music is like being taken on a journey. It's a musical journey. Now, it could literally be a story, such as Peter and the Wolf, which, generally speaking, is done with someone telling the story with the music playing as well. Not always, but often. Which also carries on to some things like ballet and the Nutcracker Suite. And then we'll stick with Tchaikovsky for just a moment. The 1812 Overture is a musical journey through the War of 1812 between Russia and France. Napoleon. So, a lot of classical music is actually telling a story through music. But then also a lot of it, most of it in fact, is just pure expression. It's not necessarily telling you a specific story, it's telling you a mood, or how the composer was feeling when they wrote it, or even how they felt about somebody. A lot of it, of course, was commissioned by aristocrats, royalty, and whatnot, for various occasions. So, in that case, the music might be telling you the story of an occasion. There's music that was written for listening to while you ate dinner. It's telling you the story of eating dinner, in a way. It's intended to entertain and just be something there pleasant in the background. It's a mood, an idea. So, in order to help you appreciate classical music, I need you to not think about it just in terms of, modern music is so different in a lot of ways. Well, and in a lot of ways it's not. It's still about storytelling in a lot of ways. It's just that they tend, if they have a story to tell you now, or a mood they want to tell you about, they do it with words. And with classical music, they don't really use words as much. Some do, with, as I said, opera and whatnot, but often it's the music itself that's telling you the story, or telling you the mood, or expressing to you what the composer was all those different things. All the things that modern music can do, classical music was doing first. They just did it differently. And because of that, it's less obvious, it's less in your face, it's more subtle in some ways. Because they're not telling you necessarily up front what this piece of music is about. But what that allows you to do is to listen to it and let it take you someplace. It doesn't necessarily have to take you where the composer wanted it to. It can take you completely different places. But that's what makes it special for you. That piece of music is taking you someplace that nobody else is taken by it. It's allowing you to feel something, experience something that nobody else will ever quite experience the same way as you. And I love lots of different kinds of modern music, but there is something that I find superior in classical music, and that's its expressiveness, its layering, the complexities. It's just different. And, I really don't like using the word superior, because that implies that I think that modern music is inferior, and I really don't. But there are just certain things that classical music does that modern music doesn't, and really can't do. There are modern composers who work in the same ways, but, composition, rather than making songs. But, I don't know, there's just something about the modern world that, it's changed things so much. The world has changed so much just in the last 100 years. And music has changed so incredibly in the last 100 years. People's attitudes, people's ways of doing things and opinions about things have changed so radically in the last 100 years. There's just something about classical music, and I would like you to experience that. Now, that led me to what piece should I ask you to listen to first? Because classical music, there's a mood for everybody. Whatever you want to listen to, whatever mood you want to feel, classical music has it. Would you like to have something exciting and, really high energy? The William Tell Overture. Especially the last part, which is very familiar to a lot of people. There's a lot of very forceful, exciting, aggressive classical music, if you look for it. Perhaps you would like something a bit romantic. Can't do worse than, or rather, it's hard to do better than some of Tchaikovsky's ballet music. But, I wanted to start you off with a piece of music that I think has a lot of qualities in common with modern music, in that there are rhythms to it that help sweep you up and sweep you away, because really, again, that's what classical music is all about, is about letting go and letting it take you someplace, take you on a journey. So the piece of music I want to start you with it's called Danse Macabre, and I'm going to put a link to the video on YouTube I would like you to watch for this piece of music. And as with any other kind of music, sometimes knowing the story behind it helps. Sometimes you don't want to know the story, but in this case, there is a definite story behind it. It's a musical poem, in a way. It's based around an old superstition that on Halloween night, death, the robe, the skull, the scythe, death, appears in a graveyard somewhere in the world and plays music for the dead, who come out of their graves and dance for death. That's what it means. Danse Macabre is dance of death. And there are other superstitions related to it, but that's the one that the poem is based around. So, I want you to start this video, and as you do, I want you to imagine yourself, just close your eyes. That's a key to classical music. You don't have to always close your eyes, but when I'm trying to help you appreciate it and understand it a little bit better and get into it, so I want you to start this piece of music, and when you do, I want you to close your eyes and imagine yourself in a graveyard on Halloween night. The moon is shining bright overhead, but there's clouds. It's a perfect scene for Halloween. And you're there in the graveyard, maybe on a dare. For whatever reason, you're there in that graveyard. And while you're standing there in the graveyard, you see something start to form, an apparition, a ghostly form. And you hide instead of running away because you want to see this, and it's death. It's actually this figure of death with the cloak, the hood, the skull sticking out, and the bony hand, the bones everywhere. It's death. And death pulls out a violin and starts to play. And as death plays, figures come out of their graves. These corpse figures, skeletons, corpses, dead people come out of their graves, and they dance for death. Death plays for them, and they dance for him. And you're scared, but you can't look away. So you keep watching and listening to this music. And that's the Dance Macabre. And that's what I want you to have in your head when you listen to this piece of music. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and hit that up vote, the thumbs up thing if you want. Leave a comment if you like. Thank you again for watching. Now go ahead and click the link I have in the description for this piece of music, the Dance Macabre, and listen to it. And remember what I was just saying. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.